Good morning and welcome to my show. I'm your host, Danny Graham, and I both invite and encourage you to walk with me on the road to wisdom. Come on, y'all. Let's walk. Good morning, good morning, good morning. It's your host, Danny Graham, and welcome to another edition of the Road to Wisdom. Today is March the 8th, 2024. TGIF. Thank goodness, thank God that it's Friday. I'm ready for the weekend. Before we get started today, I'm going to listen to a little bit of inspirational music. I'm going to play like maybe 2 minutes of it. And it's from my favorite artist of all time, that being Miss Kim Burrell. And the name of the song is I Come to You More Than I Give. Let's listen.
I come to you more than I give. I come to you more than I give. When the time comes for us to pray, we find other things to say instead of giving thanks for what God has already done. We're asking for more, but with a grateful heart we ought to pray, Lord, let your will be done. And if you never give me another thing, I'll just thank you for forgiving me. I come to you more than I give. Always with my hands out instead of me lifting them up, yeah. Always coming to you more than I give. Oh Lord, will you give me another chance? Oh my. Always with my hands out instead of giving of myself enough to say, Lord, I know that I'm in your perfect will. I want to be in your will, realizing as ungraceful as I've been, forgiving you has removed all sin. And I vow right now to never be the same. More than I give to you, always with my hands out instead of me lifting them up. Always coming to you more than I give to you.
And that is Miss Kim Burrell. Like I said, she is my favorite gospel singer of all time. I can listen to her all day. That's the first song I ever heard her sung, and I was hooked. But anyway, let's get into the show. As you can see today, this is part five of Slaying the Giant series. And the giant we're going to slay today and we're going to talk about name is fear. The giant's name today is fear. The first giant we talked about was anger. Next giant was discouragement. Next giant was doubt. The last giant we talked about on Wednesday was failure. And today on Friday, we're talking about fear. Fear is something that we all have felt in some shape, form, or fashion in our life. And we're probably going to fear something until the day we die. Some of us fear death. Some of us fear illness. Some of us fear not having money. Some of us fear illness, all kind of stuff. We don't know what is each individual's fear, but we all feel it in some shape, form, or fashion. But today we're going to talk about it. And of course, as I always do, the definition of fear is an unpleasant emotion caused by the belief that someone or something is dangerous or likely to cause pain or a threat. Let me say that one more time. Fear is an unpleasant emotion caused by the belief that someone or something is dangerous and is likely to cause pain or a threat. um, a scripture I'm going to read. I think I'm going to read two to you today. This comes from the Slaying the Giant Fear, Slaying the Giant series of cards that I'm using to talk about these particular giants. And um, this one scripture is from the book of Deuteronomy, the 31st chapter and the 6th verse, and it reads as follows. It says, "Be strong and of good courage. Do not fear, nor be afraid of them. For the Lord your God, he is the one who goes with you. He will not leave you nor forsake you." That comes from the book of Deuteronomy, 31st chapter and the 6th verse. I'm going to read one from Proverbs, which is my favorite book of the Bible. This comes from the book of Proverbs, the 3rd chapter, the 25th and 26th verse, and it reads as follows. "Do not be afraid of sudden terror, nor of trouble from the wicked when it comes. For the Lord will be your confidence, and he will keep your foot from being caught." Say that one more time. Book of Proverbs, the 3rd chapter, 25th and 26th verse. "Do not be afraid of sudden terror, nor of trouble from the wicked when it comes. For the Lord will be your confidence, and he will keep your foot from being caught." That makes me reminds me when I read those particular verses in that scripture about Job. I'm pretty sure Job was afraid when he saw everything that he had accumulated was slowly dying off. I think his wife left him, family left him, animals died, everything, plants, crops, all that kind of stuff died. Then his health started getting pretty bad, and I'm pretty sure he was fearful, like, Lord, what's going on? But guess what? Like it said, be not afraid of sudden terror. The enemy was putting terror on him, was trying to cause him to shake his belief and his faith in God. He tried to immobilize Job with fear. But Job did what God knew he would do, and that is pray to him, remain faithful, say it in his heart, and believe in his heart 1000% that God is going to get me through this. Even when it seems like God isn't listening or God isn't there, God is right there. But like I said, and I'm going to continue to say, God doesn't make mistakes. God teaches and he tests. He's not going to put more on you physically than you can bear. He's not going to do that. But believers just have to believe, have unshakable faith. And sometimes that's hard because the flesh is weak. And sometimes emotions, sometimes other people, outside forces, saying stuff like, Danny, maybe you shouldn't do this, or maybe you should do this, or whatever your name is, maybe you shouldn't do this, maybe you gotta do this. And or if something does bad happen to you, maybe there a lot of time we automatically jump to the assumption that something was done wrong. You could be doing exactly what God wants you to do. You could be repenting, you could be paying your tithes, you could be going to church, you could be helping people, you could be doing everything, living a God-like life, and something bad happens to you. Because, like I said in the last video, God doesn't think like us, he doesn't move like us. We are nowhere in his neighborhood of trying to understand what he can do, what all he does do, how it works, how he moves, how he opens this door, how he closes this door. We can get little glimpses of it that he allows us and reveals to us. But to see the whole big picture, we will never be able to see the whole entire big picture of God controlling the entire creation. We will never be able to understand that. But a lot of times people fear, we people fear things we don't understand or things that are different. But that's when, if you're a believer and things are happening to you, that's when you got to double down. That's when you got to um, get your fear under control. It's okay to be scared. It's okay to be fearful, but you can't let that fear overtake you. You can't let that fear paralyze you. You can't let that fear discourage you and cause you and prevent you from breaking through whatever test you're going through to that particular blessing that's on the other side of that. A lot of times when things get hard, when things get rough, when things get most darkest, that's the enemy trying to put things in there to prevent you from getting that blessing that's on the other side. You have to just realize that and push on through and say, God, please take this fear out of my heart. Please take this doubt out of my heart. Please take this anger, this discouragement, all those things, all these different giants, different forms of giants. Because as you're seeing now, each one is connected to the other one. Anger causes discouragement. When you discourage, you start having doubt. You start having doubt, and that's when you fail. And when you start failing, that's when you start fearing about, I'll never get this right, or I'll never do this, or I'll never be able to do that. All these things are connected, have connective tissue between each other. It's like a chain, but you have to break that chain. Once you break that chain, then that's when you can start seeing success. That's when you can start getting brave. That's when you can start your belief and your faith in God grows when this chain is broken and you see that God is there and that God is giving you the strength that you need. God is giving you the strength that you pray for. God is giving you that miracle of healing. God is giving you that miracle of being successfully financially. God is doing all these things, but He's going to test you and He's going to teach you. But when He's testing you and you feel all these emotions, that's when you got to dig down deep. That's when you got to pray up. That's when you got to hit your Bible. That's when you got to make sure you go to people that have your best interests in heart, that are believers, that are praying for you as well. A lot of times we don't believe that God is answering our prayers because it's not on our timetable. God's not listening. God is listening, but He's going to have it on His timetable. The same way it took all those years for God to finally get the Israelites free from Egypt. All those times, there was a time frame and a process for when Esther and Mordecai were able to get the Jews in a particular place under the king that Esther married. God did all that behind the scenes. God did all that stuff. God told Mordecai to tell Esther not to reveal herself that she was a Jew. God put in Mordecai in a position that he saved the king, and the king was beholden to him. And when Haman, I think his name was, Haman made that decree to kill all Jews and stuff, God kept the king up that night, would not let him sleep. The king started thinking and reflecting. He said, I never did thank Mordecai. I never did formally tell him that I was very thankful for him saving my life. I didn't do that. And then he realized that he should go and tell Mordecai, go get the man that saved my life and bring him here. And we're going to honor him. And Mordecai was the mortal enemy of Haman because Haman was mad and jealous because Mordecai would not bow to him. Mordecai said, no, you're not more than true God. I only bow down to God. I only praise God. And that pissed Mordecai off because Mordecai was up in the hierarchy of the kingdom, and he thought that he was feeling himself, and the king gave him his ring, and he could do things and say the king told him to do it. Whatever he wanted to do, all his whims and stuff, he had the king's signet ring, and he could stamp it. The king said this. King said that on Tuesdays you can wear black. Boom. King said on Wednesdays you can wear red. Boom. All this kind of crazy stuff he did in the name of the king because the king gave him that power. But when Mordecai made that, when Haman made that decree to kill all the Jews and stuff, and then Mordecai told Esther to reveal to the king that, look, he's trying to kill all us, but tell him now that you're a Jew. Because when they first got there, Mordecai told Esther, do not tell the king that you're a Jew, because they wanted to hold that. That was God's plans, to hold that and to reveal it whenever God had things in place. When Esther first became the queen for the king, God didn't have those things in place, but he was moving behind the scenes. He was doing what God does. He's closing doors and opening windows. And when the doors and the windows were opened just right to his liking, and that's when he told Mordecai to reveal to Esther to tell the king what was really going on. And then Esther kind of had to have faith too, because back in those days, even though she was the king's wife, she had to be summoned. You just couldn't go and talk to the king. The king had to summon you. And sometimes if you go without being summoned, the penalty was death. So she was fearful for her life. That same fear I'm talking about now, Esther felt that fear because if she broke protocol, then she could have been killed, even though the king really liked her and favored her. but God was working. God allowed her to be able to approach him, and the king didn't feel like he was being disrespected or any of that kind of stuff. So when Esther approached the king and told him what was going on, then he was like, "No, this guy saved my life. I'm not going to kill him." And then Esther revealed to all the things that Haman was doing, and because Haman had done build these gallows to hang all the Jews and stuff. And what ended up happening is that once the king found out all this stuff that Haman was doing, he had Haman hung with the very same gallows and the very same things that he's going to kill Jews with. That's what he was killed with. And then on top of that, the king gave all of Haman's power and wealth and stuff to Mordecai, and then Mordecai became the king's right hand man and did everything and was able to save the Jews and able to make the Jews prosper and save God's people. And God is looking back like this ain't no big deal. I do this all the time, but God works behind the scenes. You think things ain't going right? I'm pretty sure Esther and Mordecai were scared and fearful at certain points in their life, but guess what? God had them, and God's going to have us the same way. You think things look bleak? You're scared about maybe losing your house, scared about losing your job, scared about losing your loved one because they're ill or whatever. You're scared about losing your job, car, whatever you're fearing about doing. If you put it in God's hand, God can work it out. He may not work it out the way that you want to work it out, but there is times when you're asking yourself, "How am I going to survive? How is this going? I don't know what I'm going to do." There have been times when I know I needed money and I didn't, and I'm the kind of person I'm proud. I don't like to ask anybody for money, and I'm like, "What am I going to do?" And then things just happen. I get a security job, or something will happen, or I get some kind of job, or something will happen, and that money would just magically come. And I knew before I got saved, I think it was um, divine intervention and prayer from different family members. I think that was really blessing me. But now I pray for myself and my family, and I'm able to provide for my family, and not rich by any means, but not going out. If it's something that we want within reason, then we're able to get it. And I know that's nothing but God. That is God's blessing. And I definitely am thankful for God's blessing. And I continue to hope that He bless me. And I try to make sure that I recognize and tell Him thank you every time I get a call from a job asking for a job. So I try to say thank you, Lord, because you didn't have to do it. You did not have to send me this job. You didn't have to send me this blessing, but you did, and I definitely thank you. And that fear, that fear that we all feel from time to time, God is a comforting, is a comfort. He's like how babies have a comfort blanket. That's what God is. That's how believers, in my opinion, should feel about God. Whenever you're feeling discouraged, whenever you're feeling angry, or you're feeling down, and you're feeling like you just don't have any friends, you're gonna always have friend named Jesus, friend named God, and they're always gonna be there. You can't see them, but you can feel them, and all you have to do to access them is just get on your knees and pray, or you need to get on your knees, but just pray, sincere prayer. Lord, get me through this. Lord, please take away this fear, take away this anger, take away all these negative feelings that I have, Lord, and put me on the road of a righteous life. And I believe God will do it. Um, there's a quote I want to have. I'll tell you. I got two quotes, but one quote about fear is: "Too many of us are living our dreams because we are. Too many of us are not living our dreams because we are living our fear." Let that sink in. Too many of us are not living our dreams because we are living our fear. There are a lot of us that are not reaching our full potential because we're scared to go out there on that limb. Some of us are scared to do the work to be successful. Don't let something comfortable keep you down in a place because you're scared to try and take that step. You're scared to try to take that step, that leap of faith. You got to do it. Pray for courage, pray for strength, but don't stay bogged down in that same comfortable um, profession, that same comfortable church, that same comfortable whatever the case may be, that you're not growing. You always should be trying and striving to grow. But a lot of times, fear keeps us from growing. From fear keeps us from growing because I'm comfortable. I don't have to worry about nothing. And sometimes being comfortable is a good thing, but you got to recognize when the comfortable becomes where it's preventing you from growth. When it gets to that, you need to find something or somewhere or do something that's going to spark growth. And a lot of times it's professionally. So a lot of times it can be spiritually. Sometimes um, a particular pastor, or a particular church, or a particular doctrine can get you to a certain point. But then once you start growing, then sometimes you may. I'm not saying leave the church, but a lot of times you can go to other churches and get other spiritual food. Sometimes um, I guess the menu can get a little stale for you. And if you feel like it's getting stale, go to different churches. I try to go to one different church every month. My main pastor, fantastic. His menu is not stale. I enjoy it, but I also enjoy sometimes going out to different spiritual restaurants, so to speak. Um, there's a church I go to in Turbeville from time to time. I go there, and pastor is fantastic. In fact, he was the pastor that led me to the Lord. There's a friend of mine that's been inviting me to his church in the town that I work in. I plan on going there. Plan on going to my home church. So any church that grabs my attention and I can get a good spiritual meal from, I'm definitely going to try and go. And I'm just saying, don't be scared to go out and try different things. And then if maybe a particular church may not work for you, it's okay. The end goal in this whole thing is trying to live a righteous life, trying to live a life that's going to get your name in the book of life. Once you accomplish that, you have accomplished the goal. The main goal, the most important goal, is making it to heaven and living in the presence of God, Jesus, the Holy Spirit, other believers that made it. That's the ultimate goal. Sometimes we get the ultimate goal confused. We get the ultimate goal here in this particular culture, which is financial success, big house, nice car, being famous, whatever the case. Those are nice, but we can't let that overshadow Jesus and God. A lot of times he let the material things, a lot of times he let the cultural things overshadow God. And we got to make sure that we don't do that. Um, there are three types of fears that I looked up and was doing some research on. The first fear is called rational fear. And rational fear is like, okay, I'm in this room and I can't get out. And there are two rattlesnakes in here, or two cobras, or whatever. It's a potential that if I don't kill them or get out of this room, that they could potentially bite me and I could possibly die or become very ill. That's a rational fear. It makes sense. I'm in a room here. I don't have a weapon. I don't have anything. This is a very poisonous snake. If it bites me, I could die. Very rational. Irrational fear is like a phobia or something that when fear is out of proportion. Okay, I'm in this same room. There are no snakes, but I'm saying, man, what if a snake get in here? And what if a rhinoceros breaks through the wall and get in here? What if an elephant comes in here and tramples me? Or what if a giraffe comes in here or whatever, a lion or whatever? But there's no way. You're not even in the jungle. You're not anywhere in the zoo. You're not anywhere in a particular habitat that has those kind of animals, but you are definitely afraid of coming out that room because what might happen. That is irrational. Irrational fear makes no sense. And a lot of people suffer from that, have different phobias, and they can't go outside because they think this may happen, or they can't. Some people can't walk on lines; they walk on the sidewalk, and all kind. There's all different kind of phobias out there that are. Some of them, like I said, are rational fears, but some are irrational fears. And that example I just gave you about being in the room or being in the house and worrying about an elephant coming through there or a rhinoceros. Irrational. And the last one is primal fear. And primal fear is something that's deeply rooted in people and that's born in our DNA for just surviving. Um, we procreate, to survive, and to pass on our lineage. And it's just something that we're born with. We know that if we go into a burning house, there's a potential chance we might die or from smoke inhalation. We know that. We know that certain things, just when we look at it, is danger. If you're standing beside a river, you're very cautious on how you're walking and your steps, especially if you can't swim. That's primal fear. Or if you on a cliff or by a cliff or something, you make sure that you have proper footing, and because you know that fall or that sudden stop is going to cause uh, severe pain or death, or both. And it's just a primal fear. You know that if this happens, without a shadow of a doubt, it's going to be some serious injury or death. So there is a verse I want to read you, a scripture. It comes from the book of Luke, the 12th chapter, 32nd verse, and it says, "Do not be afraid, little flock, for your Father has been pleased to give you the kingdom." Again, book of Luke, the 12th chapter, 32nd verse. "Do not be afraid, little flock, for your Father has been pleased to give you the kingdom." Um, from what I get out of that is that Jesus is telling us, don't be afraid. He's here. He has our back. He's going to give us the kingdom. All we have to do is live the way he tells us to live, do what he tells us to do, follow his commandments, his teaching. When we fall, be repentful, sincerely repentful, and just try to live the best life you can. Try to do things that the Bible teaches us to do. And I believe that that will give you your heavenly crown. A lot of times people don't want to do that because, like I said, the flesh is weak. We want to do what we want to do. We want to have all our cake and eat it too, so to speak. You can't do that. You have to live. You have the roadway. You have the path. You have the instructions on what it takes to have eternal life. But a lot of us choose to ignore it because the flesh loves what it wants. The heart wants what it wants. Jesus tells us in the Bible, your heart can lie. The heart will lie to you. And a lot of people like to say the heart wants what it wants. Yeah, it wants what it wants, but what's it wants sometimes is definitely not what God wants. And the most important thing to do and follow is the words and the teaching, the what God wants, not what Danny wants, not what Susie wants, not what Bobby wants, not what Jennifer wants, but it's what God wants. If we do that, then we're gonna be okay. This is just my 2 cents on this particular word, this particular giant called fear. As always, we know what it takes to defeat fear. Prayer. Prayer is the ultimate giant killer. So make sure you do that. Now, as always, if someone tells you or asks you, Danny, why are you believing in God? Why are you read the Bible? Why are you even all that kind of stuff? That's just a bunch of malarkey. Don't follow that up. You do what you want to do. No, you don't do what you want to do. You tell them this. I choose to believe the Bible because it's a reliable collection of historical documents written down by eyewitnesses during the lifetime of other eyewitnesses. They report to us supernatural events that take place in fulfillment of specific prophecies and claim that their writings are divine rather than human in origin. That comes from Pastor Vodi Bakum. Check him out on YouTube. If this is your first time ever viewing my channel, I'm going to ask you to please subscribe. It does not cost you 1 red cent to subscribe. All it takes is a half a second to hit subscribe, boom, and you're done. Also, click the notification bell right beside it because that lets me know. Well, it will let you know each and every time that I upload something, you'll be notified on your device. Also, I'm going to ask you to leave me a thumbs up because that helps me out with the YouTube algorithm. Leave a comment. Your comments are definitely things that I read, and I try to respond back to you in a timely fashion and in definitely a respectful manner. And I definitely appreciate any comments that you leave. And last but not least, please watch my video from the start to the finish because that also helps me out with the YouTube algorithm. Before I get out of here, I want to read one more quote about fear. And that quote says, "Thinking will not overcome fear, but action will." Thinking will not overcome fear, but action, praying, helping people out, taking that step forth with a leap of faith. Even when you feel like you're scared, you overcome that fear. Action will definitely get rid of fear. So I hope you have a fantastic weekend. I'm about to get dressed, get out of here, and go to work. But I'll be back on Monday morning, and let's see what the giant will be on Monday morning. I'm talking about. Hold on. The giant we'll be discussing on Monday morning will be the giant called guilt. Guilt. We'll be discussing the giant called guilt on Monday morning. Having said that, love you. You have a fantastic weekend. Stay safe. God bless you.